Okay, I'm back. This is entertainment versus only. If you remember the gate, the gate, the gate program for the gifted. So, do you remember when you were in school and then you finished your paper, your homework before everybody else to teacher the gifted class? What I'm about to show you what it's all about. Now, I'll say this: go do your research because she could be wrong, I could be wrong, or she could be right. So I'm gonna shout out Hackett in the headline. This is her channel. Shout out to her. Let's go.
Exercise, a hearing test. But what if it wasn't any of those things? What if this sound was part of a government-funded psychological experiment? One you never agreed to, and were never meant to question. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on the GATE program and the disturbing possibility that it wasn't just about identifying gifted children, but about conditioning them, studying them, and in some cases, controlling them. What most people remember as GATE was supposed to be simple: a government-funded program designed to support gifted children, the kids who finish their worksheets early, who read above their grade level, who tested unusually high on standardized assessments. At least, that's the story we were given. But now, thousands of adults, people who have never met, never spoke, didn't grow up in the same state, are recalling memories that do not fit the harmless picture of a gifted education program. Memories of being pulled from class by someone who didn't work at the school, memories of windowless rooms, strange boxes, Zener-style cards, headphones attached to briefcases, hypnosis-style audio, mysterious pink drinks, and the repeated instruction to visualize. Don't guess, visualize. These are not part of the curriculum in any district handbook. These are not the tests given by school nurses or guidance counselors. And yet, the details match across thousands of people from the late 70s to the 80s and 90s. People separated by geography, but connected by memory. Because when we compare these recollections to declassified government programs from the same decades, the overlap becomes too strange to ignore. Predecessors to the GATE program emerged in the late 1950s. Coincidentally, this is also around the time the federal government stepped directly into public education through the National Defense Education Act. They funded psychological tests, IQ screenings, creativity assessments, and early childhood evaluations designed specifically to identify children who showed unusual potential. That part is documented. That part is real. But here's where it becomes unsettling. At the exact same time, behind the scenes, the CIA was running covert behavioral experiments. Projects Bluebird, Artichoke, and eventually MK Ultra. They were studying hypnosis, memory
Okay,
alteration,
Ultra is
remote
mind
viewing,
control.
sensory manipulation,
Hypnosis is the
and
same
altered
thing.
states of consciousness. And every single method they used
A
shows up in the
hypnosis
memories of
is
certain GATE
basically a
alumni. The
trance.
headphones, the tones and frequencies, the guided imagery, the dissociation, the visualization tests, the missing time, the amnesia-like gaps in childhood memory. The timelines match, the techniques match, and the population being tested. Now, to be clear, we do not have proof that GATE was part of an MK Ultra successor program. We do not have a document that says this happened in schools, but the patterns, the timing, the memories, and the psychological methods involved are not random. At some point, the question becomes, were these truly gifted programs? Or were some of us quietly filtered into something else? Tonight, we will be going down the rabbit hole through the history of gifted education, the Gateway process, MK Ultra, the Stargate Project, and the think tanks that shaped America's psychological warfare. Because to understand the memories resurfacing now, we have to understand the systems that created them. And one thing is already certain: GATE was never just about academics. To understand how a gifted education program could carry undertones of psychological experimentation, we have to look at the institution that pioneered the science of mass behavior itself. A place not in the United States, but in London. The Tavistock Institute of Human Relations. Tavistock began as a clinic helping soldiers with shell shock, what we now call PTSD. But the military quickly realized something. If you can understand trauma, you can reproduce it, control it, weaponize it. Tavistock's researchers started asking darker questions. How do you break down identity? How do you fragment memory? How do you shape group behavior without them noticing? How do you guide entire societies in a direction without them realizing they're being steered? These weren't theoretical thoughts, they were experiments. When Tavistock reorganized into an institute in 1947, everything changed. They were no longer confined to medicine. Now they could study. Governments, corporations, schools, media, social movements, entire populations. And they were no longer limited to funding from the British government because suddenly the Rockefeller Foundation was writing the checks. Rockefeller money helped export Tavistock's psychological warfare strategies straight into American institutions. From their research came modern corporate training, behavioral economics, political messaging, focus groups, propaganda modeling, groupthink theory, educational compliance structures. If you've ever wondered why certain classrooms felt eerie, structured, controlled, that architecture traces back to Tavistock. Wilfred Bion, one of their leaders, believed groups behave like individuals, with defense mechanisms, with unconscious fears, with predictable reactions. And if a group can be predicted, it can be controlled. John Rees, the Institute's director, said something even more disturbing. If we are to infiltrate the professional and social activities of other people, we must imitate the totalitarians. He was talking about education, medicine, journalism, religion, influence from the inside, soft control, invisible guidance. And it was this psychological architecture that merged seamlessly with American intelligence programs in the coming decades. After the Rockefeller connection, Tavistock's influence spread fast into American defense circles. 3 institutions would carry that torch: Rand Corporation, Stanford Research Institute, MITRE Corporation. Rand studied nuclear war, psychological stress, propaganda, and population behavior. They modeled how people think under fear, scarcity, or manipulation. RAND is also where early cognitive science, the study of how humans process information, merged with military strategy. Stanford Research Institute is important for one major reason: remote viewing. The CIA used SRI as the laboratory for Project Skinate and later Project Stargate, training individuals to see distant locations or predict events, access non-ordinary states of consciousness. The children who remember Zener cards in GATE, SRI used the exact same cards the children who recall being told to visualize. That's the precise instruction in remote viewing protocols. The overlap is unsettling. MITRE Corporation. MITRE is different, quiet, opaque, highly classified. They design surveillance infrastructure, behavioral prediction systems, national security algorithms, data tracking platforms, psychological influence tools. Their clients include the CIA, NSA, FBI, and Department of Defense. MITRE builds the systems, the pipes, the neural network of government intelligence work. If there was a channel connecting educational profiling data to intelligence agencies, MITRE would be the one designing it. And again, this all expanded during the same decades that GATE was created, funded, and normalized across public schools. If you want to understand how all the threads come together, the GATE program, the Gateway process, MK Ultra, Stargate, and the think tanks that shaped psychological warfare, there's one place you have to look: a quiet research center in rural Virginia, small, unassuming, peaceful, and somehow connected to all of the different mind experiments the government ever conducted. I'm talking about the Monroe Institute, founded by a radio executive named Robert Monroe, and eventually studied, adopted, and quietly monitored by US intelligence. But why? Because Monroe discovered something the CIA had been trying to achieve for decades: a reliable, replicable method to alter human consciousness without drugs, trauma, or coercion. Monroe's work started innocently enough. He was experimenting with audio tones and brainwave patterns for learning enhancement. But something strange happened. Participants report.
All right, I will do part 2 next video. I'll say it tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll pick up on the series. So remember the timestamp: 9 minutes 8 seconds. Yeah, this is a 20-minute video. All right, this is just the Entertainment purposes only. All right, just entertainment purposes only. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You're already 100 subscribers. And I'll see you in the next video. Do your research, guys. Don't believe everything you see on social media. Just entertainment purposes only. It could be real, but it could not be real. So come up with your own conclusion. I'll see you in the next one.